Every time I do a webinar, you guys send in questions and concerns before we start. And one of the most common things I hear is, how can I find balance in life? Or how can I get my life back in balance? Well, for me, it gets down to three things: temperance, resilience, and letting go of those stubborn little obsessions. We're going to weave in these concepts today, which will be especially inspirational if you've felt beat up by life's journey, but you're so close to the finish line and just need the momentum to keep going a little bit longer. This podcast is all about helping you with your spiritual growth so you can overcome obstacles and manifest your destiny to crystallize all things good, basically to have success on life's journey. It's all about getting unstuck by unlocking your hidden power. So let's get started. Hi there, and welcome. My name is Remy, like Do Re Mi. I'm a best-selling author and creator of the Get Unstuck Revolution. I help extraordinary women just like you dissolve the obstacles in your path so you can bring success to you. Now let's get started with today's video. Okay, let me jump off the screen here and switch to my laptop. We know that finding balance in the small things helps us prepare for when the big things happen. But what happens when we're pushing for the big things and we start to feel exhausted, burned out, and sometimes bruised and beat up by life's journey? For me, it gets down to three things: temperance, resilience, and letting go of those stubborn little obsessions. And we're going to see how these concepts can be both healing and get us through to the finish line, which will be especially inspirational if life's journey is kicking you in the pants, but you're so close to reaching a goal and just need the momentum to keep going a little bit longer to finally reach success. If you'd like to see success in full abundance along life's journey, and if you're wanting to tap into a greater knowingness and align with your higher consciousness of your infinite self, instead of the lower ego thinking and negative thoughts that push success away, then this is for you. It's time to be unabashedly, unapologetically, happily untethered to ego thinking. It's time to align with the higher energies of our soul's path instead. Today's episode is for you if you wonder, is it even possible to create a balanced life? Is the practice of balance supposed to help me strengthen my spiritual muscles? And can I overcome the obsessive thinking that keeps me out of balance? Yes, these episodes are about how to find your hidden power when you want to transform challenges into successes. I like to call it the audacity of alchemy. Because when we're feeling stuck, it's never the situation that has us stuck. It's our energy about it that's become stuck in anxiety, overwhelm, doubts, worries, frustrations, indecision, and even anger. And often this is because of a spiritual injury that we've experienced, some kind of hidden trauma. So it isn't the pain of our situation. It's the pain of not being connected into the natural energy of who we really are, of being connected to that magical part of us that's a creative vibrational being who can use positive energies to create what we want and bring it into physical manifestation. We can allow our manifestations to materialize and not get stuck in the negative vibrations that block them. These positive energies that we talk about so much are where we find the magic of alchemy, because our choice of frequency, our choice of those positive thoughts and emotions can change the course of our journey. All right. When we talk about a balanced life, there are some who say that it helps us to be prepared for what's to come. And others say balance is impossible because of life's ebbs and flows, always changing and bringing us new challenges. In other words, maybe it isn't about achieving balance as a goal as much as it's about recognizing that balance is about energy management. And this is why we talk so much about negative ego thinking and what it takes to bring the positive thoughts in to balance our energy. Living a balanced life may be a daily activity, but what we're talking about today is what happens if we've been pushing toward a big goal and we're almost there, but not quite. What happens if we're trying to fulfill our life's purpose, but we aren't quite there? What happens if we're trying to up level to a new higher consciousness, but keep being dragged back to a life filled with obstacles and challenges? There are times that we're pushing for the big things and we start to feel exhausted, burned out, and sometimes bruised and beat up on life's journey, right? So let's look at three ways that we can push through toward success: temperance, resilience, and letting go of stubborn, obsessive thoughts. Now, let's start with the first idea, and that's temperance. In religion and spirituality, temperance is considered a virtue and is believed to combat the sin of gluttony. Maybe we have addictions like an addiction to social media or even an addiction to certain thought patterns and certain feelings. We may have an addiction of trying to fix things in our life. Now, we've talked about this on recent episodes, how we can't fix anything that's already been manifested because, well, it's already manifested. But we can go create a new reality. Easier said than done sometimes. And so we may have this slight addiction to trying to fix our challenges and obstacles. Now, I'll agree that temperance is a virtue, especially when it can bring about balance. If we're going through an ascension, for instance, our emotions can often become unhinged as we try to balance our divine masculine and divine feminine energies. Maybe we feel trapped on this planet when we're ready to move on to a multidimensional experience. So we somehow have to find that balance with one foot grounded on the earthly plane while we also keep one foot in the spiritual flow. I'm sure you can think of other examples. The idea of temperance is to stay true to our life's purpose, why we're here, and what we're learning in this earth school. Now, we could consider this idea of temperance as both an invitation as well as a warning to restore balance as soon as possible. If we've been trying to fix things, well, maybe it's time to let go a little bit. If we've been having negative thoughts recently, maybe it's time to balance those out by looking at some possible positive outcomes. If we've been working really, really, really hard toward a goal or a dream, maybe we need a little breathing space for new ideas to flow in. Because when we're imbalanced, it takes us further away from who we are and what we're here to do. Imbalance takes us away from our life purpose. We either need to exercise 100% abstinence to break the negative cycle and bring our life into balance, or find a way for moderation at the very least. When we experience stress and tension, for instance, that's a signal that something is off in life. Life isn't flowing as easily as we'd hoped, right? When we're experiencing stress and tension. So we could ignore it. We could fall victim to our addictions and distractions, or we could just carry on with life as usual, one foot in front of the other. But our inner voice will just get stronger. It'll start bugging us until we pay attention. My point, when we experience stress and tension, that's a signal that something is off in life, yes. So we can handle the stress and tension in the usual way, or we can exercise a little temperance, a little balance, and pay attention to our inner voice. When we experience stress and tension, we can take the time for temperance because perhaps our life is being realigned with our higher consciousness. Perhaps we're in a realignment. And if we are, boy, that's going to require some balance. So, as an example, maybe we feel called in one direction, but our life isn't reflecting the path that we really want to be on. So, the stress and tension is a calling to temperance, where we can rearrange, rebalance, and realign our outer world with our higher vibration. And I should say right here, especially if we're going through an ascension, we are probably feeling conflict between two worlds, the physical world and the spiritual world. If we're going through an ascension, we are probably feeling conflict between two worlds, the physical world and the spiritual world, because they could pull us in two different directions, just splitting us in half sometimes. But this is simply a natural part of the process of leveling up. Kind of tricky because we're balancing while we're leveling up, and it is a balancing act. Chances are we already know what we need to heal in our life situation so that we can create more balance in our life. And maybe, just maybe, this balancing starts with a little bit of temperance. Now, here's a suggestion for you. If you caught the last episode on the 369 method of manifesting, you might remember that it was 3 affirmations, 6 times a day, along with a 9-second visualization. So one thing you can do as we're talking about temperance is you can do that 369 method. And when I do it, remember, it takes me just a couple minutes. And then throughout the rest of the day, you'd focus on just a single mantra. So 3 affirmations, 6 times a day. And then the rest of the day, just be focused on one single mantra. This would help stop any obsessive thoughts about what isn't working or what's going wrong and help keep the thoughts in a state of balance. So, in addition to doing your affirmations 6 times a day, your mantra could be, I'm looking forward to a better than expected outcome. By combining your affirmations with a mantra, you're putting focus on creating a new reality 6 times a day. And by keeping that one mantra front of mind, you're offering a vibration of temperance the rest of the day. And this combination can shift the energy and create momentum toward a new reality. Okay. So we're pushing for the big things in life, and we start to feel exhausted, burned out, and sometimes bruised and beat up on life's journey. And temperance was the first antidote. Next, let's look at resilience. I love this word resilience so much that my third book had that in its title. I love this word resilience. We're talking about courage, tenacity, and maybe a little test of faith in our own abilities to create our new reality. Even though we maybe feel weary at times, maybe we feel just exhausted from some of the life changes, and maybe we're kind of worn out from the obstacles, we want to have a little faith in our abilities as creative vibrational beings who can use positive energies to create what we want and bring it into fruition without getting hung up in any negative thoughts that may block what we want. These negative thoughts can sometimes just wear us out, can't they? Well, if our current challenge feels like a battle that's going to take us out, let's realize that we may be under a test of our strength. Perhaps we're being asked to stand tall and proud. Perhaps we called in our adversity to help us strengthen our faith in our own abilities to create this new reality. With each obstacle we overcome, we strengthen our spiritual muscles. And so this is the time to keep pushing, to keep trying, to keep moving forward toward our objective, whatever that may be. Now, this is important. Sometimes we're so close to the finish line and we can feel it. And this is the time that our ego thinking sometimes moves in and tells us we're crazy and it's time to give up and do something different. Should we listen? Or should we regroup and stand firm in the face of the voice of ego and realize that we're this close to making our goal a reality? We can push through. We can. All right. So far, we've talked about temperance, that we're realigning and rebalancing our thoughts into a higher frequency and a higher state of consciousness. And we've talked about resilience, to push through. We can do this thing, to stay strong in the face of any perceived adversity. We're pushing on through for the big things in life. So that's temperance and resilience. And next, let's look at letting go of stubborn, obsessive thoughts. Letting go of our stubborn, obsessive thoughts. Our obsessive thoughts may be there out of habit, and that's very real. Now, it's true that our thoughts create reality, and it's an exact science. But our thoughts can also become so obsessive that they create resistance and push our goal further away from us. We want to focus on what we want rather than how impossible it may seem. And here's another perspective. I'd like to suggest that the obsessive thoughts might be filling a vacuum that's been created because we don't yet believe that we can have what we truly want. And if that's the case, if our thoughts are filling a vacuum because we don't believe that we can have what we want, what can we do to increase our faith? When we remember that we have an innate natural ability to create and receive what we truly want, then we no longer have any use for our defense mechanisms or negative emotions. We no longer have any use for our stubbornness or our rigidity. We no longer have any reason to withdraw or hide. And we no longer have any use for our obsessive thoughts that take us nowhere. Now, let's also not forget that obsessive thoughts aren't all bad. Even they sometimes have a valuable purpose. They provide us with an opportunity to realign with our personal truths and values and find out what truly resonates deep in our heart. The key is to use the obsessive thoughts as a launching pad for growth and then actually launch. If we notice that we're obsessing about something, well, we can use the opportunity to ask, who am I now? Which actually answers a more important question, what do I really want? Because clearly it's not the experience of obsessive thoughts. So, what is it? What is it that we want deep in our heart? When we continue to obsess about something, it could mean that there's something under the surface that wants to bubble up. And often that thing is a personal value that's aching for us to take 5 seconds out of our busy life and recognize it. And when we acknowledge the value, define who we are and what we want, suddenly there's a purpose for going through the agony of the obsessive thought in the first place. For example, when we're obsessing on an issue like, why is my income stuck in low gear? Or why can't I seem to connect with the person I really want in my life? This is actually telling us that there is something true deep down inside us that's being ignored. And no, the statement that my income is stuck in low gear, that isn't our truth. That nagging thought is a doubt, and doubts are there to give us an opportunity to uncover what we really want deep down. Why would we consistently be bothered by a thought like, my income is stuck in low gear? Well, maybe because we know our personal truth is actually prosperity is my natural greatness. Acknowledge and embrace our truth, and suddenly we open up a new conversation about what we really want and desire in our life. Obsessive thoughts happen when our mind tries to take an irrational situation and make it rational, when we're trying to control a situation that we really can't control. But we can accept what is and turn those obsessive thoughts toward our vision of the life we want to create instead. When we know that we're fixating or obsessing about a problem, by consciously redirecting our thoughts to what we want instead of obsessing about how impossible it all seems, it's easier to be calm and free of doubts. And that circles us back to temperance and rebalancing and resilience. See how these three things all work together? As we redirect our thoughts out of obsession and toward what we truly want, we can more easily express a little temperance so that we feel balanced. And from that place of balance, we can activate a higher frequency of resilience. And if you'll remember, this episode is all about finding balance when we're feeling beat up and bruised and exhausted from our journey. But when we really look at it closely, it's actually our negative, obsessive thoughts about our journey that disrupt our balance and our resilience. From a place of balance, we can activate a higher frequency of resilience and keep pushing through toward our greatest desires. All right. As we empower ourselves toward the self expression of who we are at our core, without the negative thoughts and obsessive thoughts and negative emotions that can drain us, we're choosing a higher frequency, higher and better thoughts, because our choice of frequency, our choice of more positive emotions, changes the course of our journey. So, reflecting back on everything we covered today, how can you apply what you've learned? Do you feel like these concepts can help you push through to the finish line? Okay, so I'm curious, what were your 3 favorite takeaways from today? For me, my favorite takeaways are: 1, the idea of temperance is to stay true to our life's purpose. I think my second favorite takeaway is that with each obstacle we overcome, a little resilience can help strengthen our spiritual muscles so that we can keep going. And my third favorite takeaway: sometimes our obsessive thoughts are filling a vacuum, but the vacuum is better filled with faith in our ability to create abundance and best possible outcomes. So, those are my favorite takeaways, and I'd love to hear about yours. If you're watching on YouTube, you could leave a comment right here. If you're like most of my audience, you're on my website at unlockyourhiddenpower.com, and you can leave a comment there as well. I hope this helps you as you're using the powers of alchemy to transform challenges and obstacles into positive new successes. This podcast is all about helping you have success on your spiritual growth journey. It's all about getting unstuck by unlocking your hidden power. If you still can't get your head around what's got you stuck in life or in business, you can tell me about it. You can send me a question to questions@unlockyourhiddenpower.com, or you may not know that you can get a free copy of my latest book at unlockyourhiddenpower.com. You can also book a private session with me there. But if you decide to go for the free book, you'll discover the 22 undeniable laws of alchemy and how to take a wrecking ball to doubt, worries, frustration, and indecision so that your obstacles and challenges can evaporate right before your eyes. You can get your instant download at unlockyourhiddenpower.com. Well, thanks for joining me today, and I'm wishing you a life filled with all the alchemy you need to bring success to you. Feel free to share this video with anyone you know who's feeling stuck, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.